Hello everyone, Cracklex here, and I am so excited to talk with you all about Guardians of the Galaxy that was released in 2014 and quickly became a box office hit. It was praised for its unique visual effects, which were created using computer-generated imagery CGI. In this video, we are going to explore what the movie would look like without these VFX. If you think it's impossible to create a film entirely using CGI and VFX, you're very much mistaken. They treated a film with two main characters that would be realized entirely in CG, and with vast space and Earth-like environments to create, the visual effects crew were once again crucial to completing the film. Overall Visual Effects Supervisor Stéphane Soretti, Associate Visual Effects Supervisor Olivier Dumont, and Visual Effects Producer Susan Pickett guided the ship. They lead a vast army of VFX artists from 13 companies including MPC, Framestore, Luma Pictures, Method Studios, Imageworks. Central to the film were the characters of Groot and Rocket. Knowing that the tree-like form of Groot and the feisty Rocket, a genetically modified raccoon, would not only pose technical challenges but also need to be treated like any other character. Ultimately, companies such like MPC would be awarded creation duties for Groot, and with Framestore handling Rocket. Both facilities produced each character sharing models and textures. Soretti said, "The most important thing for us was to make sure all the acting would be believable and that the actors would be able to respond to each another actor." Groot says, "I am Groot" most of the time.
I am Groot!
Ultimately voiced by Vin Diesel, but he has a lot of expression on his face and this determines what he means. Rocket has a lot of lines and actions around, so it was important for James to have a real actor there to bounce around with the other actors. I think James was clever to get his brother to do that, first of all because he was really good at it. A shooting methodology was devised for these two main characters that mostly utilized people. For Groot, some use took place into mocap, including a performance from James Gunn himself, but it was deemed that this would not fit in with the style of shooting as the height of the eye of the ground did not correspond to reality. The final they decided to make use of a mime, Christian Godlowski, on set who would wear a blue or whichever suited the background bodysuit and wear a Groot helmet featuring a printed mask that matched the character's eventual eyeline. Creating Groot, MPC Company's main consideration was to maintain the character's human qualities. MPC Visual Effects Supervisor Nicholas A. Thady outlines that they were trying for a long time to figure out how would we make him more emotional. One thing they didn't want him is to be too elastic and malleable. Human faces moving a lot, but because he's made of wood, they'd make him less emotional than human being. The studio team spent a lot of time developing and constructing the complex eye dynamics. They paid attention to texture details and elements that were altered in the iris areas to create shadows. Particular attention was paid to creating incomplete symmetry in the eyes to make them more interesting, human, and strange. Groot had a piercing gaze and wisdom on his face that made him very attractive to watch. To create Groot's character in the film, he was modeled as individual branches, each of which could be controlled separately. Each movement of a limb caused a corresponding movement of the branch at the back or waist to convey a sense of muscularity. Instead of using the muscle system used for human or soft characters, each individual branch of Groot reacted dynamically to the other branches to create the illusion of a living creature. Various sources were used to texture Groot, including a visit to a botanical garden in London. The team experimented with different types of wood and their combinations, conducting hundreds of iterations to determine color schemes and the presence of moss or lichens. The moss was predominantly located on his shoulders or head, and the lower parts of his feet and legs were made darker to create a dust or dirt effect, although initially it looked like fluffy boots. It also turned out that Groot was actually a teenager, not an old tree. One of the characteristic features of the tree is the bark, but it looks like wrinkles on the characters. They used photos of the bark on his face, which gave it an interesting look, but made it look too old. So they removed some of the bark to keep the volume of the face. On the sides of his face, they left a rougher bark, but it was less pronounced on the front. Framestore adapted its process for the complex character to match the MPC-created version of Groot in the scenes the studio handled. One additional task was to create effects during the escape from Calm Prison, when Groot is bombarded by several floating robots and his outer tree structure is torn away. They came up with the concept that he would grow a shield as an extension of his arm, but for the rest of his body they came up with the concept that he would grow an extra layer of vines and twigs, which gave a plausible explanation for the possibility of growing some sort of protective element. Rocket specifically was designed to be grizzled and cynical, but also revealed moments of vulnerability. Framestore was responsible for creating the intricate details of Rocket's body, including his biotech implants, and used references from Raccoons to make his movements and actions feel natural. Overall, the combination of on-set interaction and animation techniques resulted in a believable and complex character in the final product. For character Rocket, several on-set styles were employed. For example, the director engaged his brother Scene Gun to perform Rocket's lines. They also tried to use an actor also walk the scene with a picture of Rocket to help with eye lines, while a stuffy raccoon was placed in the shots for lighting and positioning reference, aiding Ben Davis in designing and positing lighting. The key to making Rocket feel believable as a talking and emotive creature was in the facial features, such as the large shadows under his eyes that allowed for emotive brows. By gradually adding these details, the team was able to create a face that could convey emotions in a more human-like way. Ultimately, the process of creating Rocket involved a combination of real-life animal references and artistic exploration. One of the major challenges faced by the studio in creating the character of Rocket in this film was designing his hair. To accomplish this, the studio relied on its in-house hair system called hair filters and Sim Tool Dynamo. They separated the raccoon fur into short, fine hairs and longer, thicker hairs, and were able to use the hair system to simulate the full hair count of the longer hairs. This allowed for more accurate simulations and a more natural overall look. Furthermore, the team separated the fur into sections to match the different costumes used in the film, which made it easier to manage the multiple hair sets required for the different variants of Rocket's appearance. The studio used the Arnold renderer with a Marshner shader to render his fur. This shading system is designed to simulate how light interacts with hair in the real world, allowing for a more realistic appearance. Framestore utilized a careful approach to animating his expressions. Rather than using every available face shape just for the sake of it, the animators were encouraged to focus on a single expression and hold it when appropriate. The team also used a variety of references to inform their work, including footage of the human actors on set, post-vis, and even recordings of their own animators as reference. By combining these approaches, the team was able to create a more natural and believable performance from the character of Rocket. To create the opening scenes of the film where Peter Quill is on the planet Morag stealing an ore, the production team used a combination of physical sets and extensions by MPC. The vast landscapes seen in these scenes were inspired by a location in Egypt known as the White Desert, which the team visited to take reference stills. The production team's philosophy was to build as much as possible for the actors to perform in a real environment, so they struck a balance between green screen and extensions. By using a combination of practical sets, reference material, and extensions, the team was able to create a visually stunning and immersive opening sequence for the film. To create the planet Morag in this film, the production team used a combination of practical sets and extensions created by MPC. The team implemented a system of pointy and angular-looking rocks, called angry rocks, which were used throughout the environment. The introduction of Quill's ship to Milano was also an important part of this sequence, which required the ship to be lifted up by a geyser. Although it was a challenging shot, the team successfully conveyed the scale of the geyser to make the sequence more believable. Overall, the sequence was created using a combination of reference materials, practical sets, and visual effects to create a cohesive and immersive frame. In conclusion, removing CGI VFX from Guardians of the Galaxy may cause some elements of this beloved movie to become slightly less impressive than they are with special effects added through computer graphics technology. However, it is still possible to enjoy this film even without them. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more videos like this one. See you soon!